fundamentally, platinum should have a lot more going for it than gold, but in reality, a lot of times it doesn't work out that way because gold is money. Gold is money. But the fundamentals for platinum are probably stronger than silver in some ways, the big problem being that it's a newer metal. But whatever affects platinum as far as price volatility, pretty much the same way with silver, because neither platinum nor silver is money in the true sense. Gold is money. It goes on to say, this is fairly interesting. What element is scarcer than gold, a better conductor than silver, and denser than lead? The answer is platinum. The characteristics and uses of platinum are very varied. First of all, it's very rare. All the platinum ever mined, for example, would fit into a 25 cubic foot room. Only 133 tons of platinum is mined annually, compared to about 1,782 tons of gold. Now, in the case of silver, it's closer to 24,000 tons. So, in the case of platinum, it's about 7.5% of the volume of platinum is mined of gold. It's way over 10 times more, less than 1/10 the production of gold, way less than 1/10. And yet, it's used more industrial-wide than silver. And it's used quite a bit in jewelry. So fundamentally, platinum should look good, but in reality, it doesn't. It doesn't right now. When you consider that it takes 10 tons of ore in a 5-month process to produce a single ounce of platinum, you begin to understand why the metal is so precious. Platinum's use in jewelry has been surging over the past decade and today represents 38% of overall platinum demand. Now, one thing I keep thinking today, since platinum is less than gold, that the jewelry demand is going to come up a lot higher because most people, well, some people like a silvery white type of jewelry, and if you buy a silvery white type of jewelry, usually you'll buy white gold, and actually there's no such thing as a white gold. It's gold, and it's usually mixed with nickel, and that gives the white color, and then they plate it with rhodium. But what happens with that, a lot of times the rhodium plating comes off in a year or two, and it has to be replated. So a platinum piece is actually much better, but it's much more expensive. But being that the spot price of platinum is below gold, the price of the jewelry piece is actually starting to come down, and so, obviously people want like a white gold, they're going to choose platinum over that. It could still be a little more expensive because it's harder to work, but the jewelry piece lasts much, much longer. It doesn't scratch as easily and all this type of stuff. And so that's a very interesting thing. Almost 40% of platinum use is in jewelry. And it has, I think it's more than 50% industrial use. Is more industrial use with platinum than there is silver. And there's definitely more jewelry use too. Definitely more. So it's really the big problem sometimes is the fact that, well, it's not used in silverware. It's used in photography a little bit, for like high long range storage of photographs. They'll use platinum for like archiving museum type photos and stuff. But it's not really used too much for that application, but it does have an application there. But some of the usages it has are bringing upon more and more demands from the supply, which actually seems to be lessening because most of the supply comes from South Africa, and they seem to be having problems there for many times trying to get production up to speed to meet the demand, as was the case this year. Even though the platinum price went down, they were not able to meet the demand. They were not. They had to pull things out of stockpile. Record demand on platinum, yet the price went down. It does not make sense. It goes on to say, but where they're skeptical on South Africa will continue to see platinum production grow. They think that it's more likely that South Africa platinum mine growth will soon reach a zenith, and then enter into the type of decline experienced by South Africa gold producers. And you know, some of this stuff is kind of coming on. There were stories even just this week. And this was one of the things that made me buy platinum, and the price actually went down since that time. But but I've seen this happen a lot of times. They have these mining stories out. They actually had strikes and power outages in South Africa where they lost like 21,000 ounces worth of production of platinum, which was a big major hit on the annual production. Yet, we've seen a price drop in the market. Usually news like that sometimes will affect the markets, but not all the time. So, meanwhile, Russian platinum production is in steep decline. That we've seen in 2002. This is old statistics, but they fell. But actually, Russian platinum production has been falling for quite some time. This is a long-range platinum chart, and one thing I want to point out is that back in early 2008, platinum was running about twice the price of gold. Then it took this major hit. It went from like over 2,000 to like 700 something dollars. But I also want to point out it went slightly below the price of gold briefly in 2009. It's been below the price of gold now for like months and months. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. It's really started doing this, since the latter half of 2011 up to present. And that's telling me the economy is probably not as strong as they like to say, And I also want to point out something else. Like a lot of times people are looking for this astronomical blow-off top in silver. And I did point out that actually the blow-off top in silver occurred at the same time that platinum and palladium occurred. It actually occurred in late 1979, right? Or the first week of 1980 or whatever. Well, look at the unemployment rates. These are just government statistics off an educational site. Look at the unemployment rates. I mean, they were like, 5.96%. They were very low, right? Well, in 1980-82, that's when we saw the metals crash. Look what happened to unemployment. It almost doubled. It went from 6% to like 11%, right? Well, we're more like in this range right now. We're in this recessionary range. So that's infecting all the industrial metals, platinum, palladium, and silver. We're not going to get, I don't see how we're going to get this astronomical price range in silver, even though I'm talking mainly about platinum. But I realize that all the metals, all the white metals that are industrial, they do kind of run together. Not perfectly, but the economic conditions aren't there for having a serious run up in silver unless we're having hyperinflation. That would be the only way that silver would really jump up. But even so, we had hyperinflation in 1980, 81, and 82. And what happened to silver? It crashed. Because it's an industrial metal. And that's also what happened with platinum and palladium. It's kind of like an interesting twist because I like to examine some reality here because the 1979 scenario where silver went up, almost 7 times inside of a year, including platinum and including palladium, we don't have the economic conditions for it exactly right now because the unemployment is not low enough right now. That's something I see, and that when you have industrial metals, you have to have a very hot economy where people are asking for goods and services, and that puts a big demand on them. That was in combination with inflation. The economy was strong, the unemployment was low, and that was in combination with inflation. So what happened here, things basically crashed and unemployment went up. But we're looking at some of these charts right now. you know, this black line represents platinum. This orange line represents gold. And gold is far outperforming platinum right now for the last, I don't know, well over a year. And we've seen the price action. It's not been it's not that often that platinum goes below gold in price. So what I'm thinking is the economy is lousy, despite some of the numbers we might see from other sources. But these metal prices sometimes indicate what's really going on. So fundamentally, platinum looks like, there's more and more problems with production in South Africa, and globally, probably there's more demand going on. Globally, maybe not from the United States or Europe, but globally. And yet the price seems to be dropping some. But fundamentally, I don't think this is going to last very much longer. And I personally feel stronger about platinum and palladium than silver right now. I think what's going to push silver up a lot is the media blitz. There's a lot of people out there really pushing this metal, and there's a lot of people getting the word out to the middle class, like the sky's falling and everything. But I have some doubts as if that's one of the better ways to protect money, because looking at the statistics with the economy, inflation is one thing, but if you have a weak economy, you don't want to be into something that's considered an industrial metal, even though it's a precious metal. It's an industrial metal. And what will bring it up eventually is quantitative easing. That's something I think is going to be the curveball that's going to come up pretty soon now. We're probably going to get some quantitative easing. And that's what brought it up from this low of 775 around there to almost 1900, or around 1900 in 2011. So when we see quantitative easing kick in, the performance of platinum, despite it lagging gold right now, it's actually going to catch up to gold and surpass gold. So that's one of my longer range decisions. I think that's actually going to come up this year, and it's probably going to affect silver. But considering what's going on with the supply of platinum and palladium, I think there's more problems with actually getting those products to market than silver, even though silver is the one that's more heavily advertised. And considering both platinum and palladium have been showing production shortfalls and things having to come out of stockpiles to meet demand, and having record demands in 2011, I think that we're going to see a price explosion here pretty soon. The real problem is this stuff right now. We're not we're in like this, like the worst part of the 1982 recession, which was one of the worst recessions going after World War II. And this was after that caused all the metals to crash too, because we went into a recession. So there's a little bit different times going on right now. You can't make perfect comparisons between 1979 or 1980 or 1933 or anything like that till today. But I think that one little common sense thing here, we're not going to see the metals explode unless we have a lot of quantitative easing. And that really is the big question. That really is the big question. When is Ben Bernanke going to do that? But being that we're in the kind of situation we're in right now, we're not going to get into a 1979 situation unless we're at 5 or 6% unemployment, and there's a lot of production of goods and services going out, and that's causing a lot of demand for the industrial metals. So, I don't think we have all the factors to get into these kind of crazy price movements like 1979. So I just, word to the wise. So we might see these metals go up quite a bit this year, but I don't think there's going to be any kind of 5 times movements or anything like that, where people have talked about these ridiculously high prices in the past. they're going to start talking them up again this year because I think they're going to start moving up. But as usual, the silver crowd is going to really be pumping up these metals like crazy and telling you it's going to go to some $200 in no time, and it's not. It's not. But just look at some of these other conditions out there. The unemployment figures should indicate something also, and just the fact that, you know, why these industrial metals are down, including silver, platinum, and palladium. Like I stated before, platinum and palladium have had record usage for 2011. They had to pull out of stockpiles, but the price of the metals have fallen. I mean, I don't know if you want to say J.P. Morgan did that. Fine, whatever. I think silver's pretty lucky to be up as high as it is right now. You know. So anyway, that's just a quick update, and I just want to like point out a couple things that fundamentally platinum has a hell of a lot going for it right now, more so than gold, and it will be a big winner in the long run for sure.